Hello, this is Mrs. Abdil, and today we are going to be reading The Necklace by Guy de Maupassant. Before we read this, I actually always like to read the background of the story. It'll help you to understand a little bit what's going on. This story takes place in Paris in the second half of the 19th century, so the late 1800s. At the time that Maupassant wrote The Necklace, European societies were divided into upper, middle, and lower classes. Birth usually determined a person's class. Sometimes a man could buy his way into a higher class by acquiring wealth. A woman could improve her status by marrying into a higher class. One obstacle for women was the tradition of the dowry, money or property that a bride's family was expected to give her new husband, but that poorer families could not provide. And that's going to play a role in our story today. Our main character, Madame Loisel. So, Madame is the French for Mrs. So, it's MME is the abbreviation, and we always say MME is the lady, the Mrs. And then if you just see just the last name Loisel, or if you see Monsieur, that would be the husband. So, she wants you to think that she's really poor. But she's not. But she's not as wealthy as she would like to be. And one of those reasons that she couldn't move up in that higher class into that higher rank was because she had no dowry. She had no money or property that she could give her husband. She was one of those pretty and charming girls, born as if by an accident of fate into a family of clerks. With no dowry, no prospects, no way of any kind of being met, understood, loved, and married by a man both prosperous and famous, she was finally married to a minor clerk in the Ministry of Education. She dressed plainly because she could not afford fine clothes, but was as unhappy as a woman who has come down in the world, for women have no family rank or social class. With them, beauty, grace, and charm take the place of birth and breeding. Their natural poise, their instinctive good taste, and their mental cleverness are the sole guiding principles which make daughters of the common people the equals of ladies in high society. So what Madame Loisel is thinking here, or what she's saying, is that all she wants to do is to be waited on. She wants maids, she wants butlers, she wants to be waited on hand and foot. However, because she's not in the upper class, she's more like in the middle class. All she's expected to do is just give birth to children. And that's not something that she wants to do. She grieved incessantly, which means she cried all the time, feeling that she had been born for all the little niceties and luxuries of living. She grieved over the shabbiness of her apartment, the dinginess of the walls, the worn-out appearance of the chairs, the ugliness of the draperies. All these things, which another woman of her class would not even have noticed, gnawed at her and made her furious. The sight of the little Breton girl who did her humble housework roused in her disconsolate regrets and wild daydreams. She would dream of silent chambers draped with oriental tapestries and lighted by tall bronze floor lamps, and of two handsome butlers in knee breeches, who, drowsy from the heavy warmth cast by the central stove, dozed in large overstuffed armchairs. So, this is how we know that Madame Loisel is not as poor as what she wants us to believe she is, because in this paragraph, it tells us that she has a maid. It says the sight of the little Breton girl who did her humble housework. So she's sitting there all upset that she's not super rich and having butlers, but yet she's watching a maid do all her cleaning for her and all her cooking for her. I don't know about you, but if you're poor, you don't have money for a maid. But again, even just having a maid is not good enough for Madame Loisel. And there's one artist interpretation of Madame Loisel. She would dream of great reception halls hung with old silks, of fine furniture filled with priceless curios, and of small stylish scented sitting rooms just right for the 4 o'clock chat with intimate friends, who distinguished and sought after men whose attention every woman envies and longs to attract. So she just wants guys to check her out. When dining at the round table covered for the third day in the same cloth, opposite her husband, who would raise the cover of the soup tureen, declaring delightedly, "Ah, a good stew, there's nothing I like better," she would dream of fashionable dinner parties, of gleaming silverware, of tapestries making the walls alive with characters out of history and strange birds in a fairyland forest. She would dream of delicious dishes served on wonderful china, of gallant compliments whispered and listened to with a sphinx-like smile, as one eats the rosy flesh of a trout or nibbles on the wings of a grouse. A grouse is a type of bird that they would eat. So in this paragraph, we're introduced to her husband, and as you can see, he is the complete opposite of Madame Loisel. He is very happy, very content with their life. He works all day. He comes home. He's very happy to lift that cover off the soup tureen, the pot, and be like, "Ah, a good stew. There's nothing I like better." And she's like, "Ugh, stew again? Like, I want to be eating fancier things like trout or grouse or, maybe even like caviar." She's so sick and tired of stew, which is probably something that they have a lot. But her husband, he is very happy to just to have a hot meal. She had no evening clothes, no jewels, nothing, but those were the things that she wanted. She felt that that was the kind of life for her. She so much longed to please, be envied, be fascinating and sought after. She had a well-to-do friend, a classmate of convent school days, whom she would no longer go to see, simply because she would feel so distressed on returning home, and she would weep for days on end from vexation, regret, despair, and anguish. So she had a friend that she used to go to school with that she would visit, but her friend was living the life that she wanted. Her friend was very wealthy. She probably had new clothes all the time, lots of jewelry, and it would bother Madame Loisel so much that she would come home and cry for days and days that she actually just stopped going to see her friend because it upset her so much. Then one evening, her husband came home proudly holding out a large envelope. "Look," he said, "I've got something for you." She excitedly tore open the envelope and pulled out a printed card bearing these words: "The Minister of Education and Madame George Ropineau beg Monsieur and Madame Loisel to do them the honor of attending an evening reception at the ministerial mansion on Friday, January 18th. So she opens up this invitation to this fancy reception, this fancy party. Instead of being delighted, as her husband had hoped, she scornfully tossed the invitation on the table, murmuring, "What good is that to me?" "But, my dear, I thought you'd be thrilled to death. You never get a chance to go out, and this is a real affair, a wonderful one. I had an awful time getting a card. Everybody wants one. It's much sought after, and not many clerks have a chance at one. You'll see all the most important people there." So as you can see, her husband tried really hard at his job to get this invitation to this party, knowing that this is where rich and wealthy people would be, and that thinking that this is where she'd want to go, or she'd want to be a part of this scene. And you can see that Madame Loisel is kind of nasty to her husband. She treats him with disrespect. She is very sharp with him. And, you can see that she's just not very nice to him. So she throws the invitation on the table and she's like, "What good is that to me?" Instead of like being excited and thankful the way that he thought she would, you're going to see that her husband goes way out of his way to make her happy, and she still kind of treats him not very kindly. She gave him an irritated glance and burst out impatiently, "What do you think I have to go in?" He hadn't given that a thought. He stammered, "Why, the dress you wear when we go to the theater. That looks quite nice, I think." He stopped talking, dazed and distracted, to see his wife burst out weeping. 2 large tears slowly rolled from the corners of her eyes to the corners of her mouth. He gasped, "Why, what's the matter? What's the trouble?" By sheer willpower, she overcame her outburst and answered in a calm voice, while wiping the tears from her wet cheeks. "Oh, nothing. Only I don't have an evening dress, and therefore I can't go to that affair. Give the card to some friend at the office whose wife can dress better than I can." So you could see here that she insults him and she puts him down. She's like, take this invitation back to the office and give it to some other guy who makes more money than you can and that can provide better for his wife and provide a fancy dress. So even though she's insulting him, he's still again going to go out of his way to make her happy. He was stunned. He resumed, "Let's see, Mathilde." Mathilde is her first name. "How much would a suitable outfit cost? One you could wear for other affairs too. Something very simple." She thought it over for several seconds, going over her allowance and thinking of the amount that she could ask for without bringing an immediate refusal and exclamation of dismay from the thrifty clerk. Finally, she answered hesitatingly, "I'm not sure exactly, but I think 400 francs I could manage it." He turned a bit pale, for he had set aside just that amount to buy a rifle, so that the following summer he could join some friends who were getting up a group to shoot larks on the plain near Nanterre. However, he said, "All right, I will give you 400 francs, but try to get a nice dress." So this part always makes me cringe a little bit. Madame Wassel here is kind of acting like a child would, a teenager would. She asks for money and she wants to get the most out of her husband that she can without immediately him saying no. But she also doesn't want to ask for too little to the point where she's not going to be able to get a nice dress. And also, she asked for a very specific amount, 400 francs. And that's exactly how much money he had put aside for himself so that he could buy a gun to go hunting with some friends. And I always say here that I think she knew exactly how much money he had put aside. Because think about it, that money is not for bills, and in her mind, it's not for anything important. It's just for a gun for him to go hunting. So she knew she could use that money and it wouldn't affect their bill situation. And even though he has it set aside for himself, even though she was disrespectful to him, he still gives her the money. As the day of the party approached, Madame Wassel seemed sad, moody, and ill at ease. Her outfit was ready, however. Her husband said to her one evening, "What's the matter? You've been all out of sorts for 3 days." And she answered, "It's embarrassing not to have a jewel or a gem, nothing to wear on my dress. I'll look like a pauper. I'd almost rather not go to that party." So she has two problems with this invitation. First is she has nothing to wear, but then her husband gives her the money and she buys a nice dress. Now she's saying that her problem is she has no jewelry to wear with her dress and she'll look like a pauper or a poor person. He answered, "Oh, why not wear some flowers? They're very fashionable this season. For 10 francs, you can get 2 or 3 gorgeous roses." Now, so he's talking about a corsage. And I forgot to mention when she asked for 400 francs, francs was like the dollar that they used in France. So this was before everything changed over to the euro. So when she asked for 400 francs, that was about $70 or $80 back then. And you might say, well, that's not too bad for a dress. Especially, maybe some girls might spend more than that on a prom gown. But you also have to remember this is the late 1800s. So he says to her, why not get some flowers or a corsage? But of course, that's not going to be good enough for her. She wasn't at all convinced. No, there's nothing more humiliating than to look poor among a lot of rich women. But her husband exclaimed, "My, but you're silly. Go see your friend Madame Forestier and ask her to lend you some jewelry. You and she know each other well enough for you to do that." She gave a cry of joy. "Why, that's so. I hadn't thought of it." The next day she paid her friend a visit and told her of her predicament. So Madame Forestier is that friend from the beginning whom she no longer went to see because her friend had everything she wanted and it was so upsetting for her. So she hasn't seen her in a while, but she's going to go and ask her if she can borrow some jewelry for this party. Madame Forestier went toward a large closet with mirrored doors, took out a large jewel box, brought it over, opened it, and said to Madame Loisel, "Pick something out, my dear." At first her eyes noted some bracelets, then a pearl necklace, then a Venetian cross, gold and gems of marvelous workmanship. She tried on these adornments in front of the mirror, but hesitated, unable to decide with which to part with and put back. She kept on asking, "Haven't you something else?" "Oh, yes, keep on looking. I don't know just what you'd like." All at once she found in a black satin box a superb diamond necklace, and her pulse beat faster with longing. Her hands trembled as she took it up, clasping it around her throat outside her high-necked dress. She stood in ecstasy looking at her reflection. Then she asked, hesitatingly, pleading, "Could I borrow that, just that and nothing else?" "Why, of course." She threw her arms around her friend, kissed her warmly, and fled with her treasure. So out of all the pieces of jewelry in this box, bracelets, cross necklaces, all kinds of, pearl necklaces, Madame Loisel chose a diamond necklace. And why do you think she chose the diamond necklace? Because it looked the most expensive. When you see diamonds, you think bling bling and you think money, and that's probably why she chose the diamond necklace out of all the other pieces of jewelry. The day of the party arrived. Madame Loisel was a sensation. She was the prettiest one there, fashionable, gracious, smiling, and wild with joy. All the men turned to look at her, asked who she was, begged to be introduced. All the cabinet officials wanted to waltz or dance with her. The minister took notice of her. She danced madly, wildly, drunk with pleasure, giving no thought to anything in the triumph of her beauty, the pride of her success, in a kind of happy cloud composed of all the adulation, all the praise, of all the admiring glances, of all the awakened longings, of a sense of complete victory that is so sweet to a woman's heart. She left around 4 o'clock in the morning. Her husband, since midnight, had been dozing in a small empty sitting room with 3 other gentlemen whose wives were having too good a time. So Madame Loisel had the time of her life at this party. She could not have asked for a better night. All the guys were checking her out. All the women wanted to talk to her. The guys wanted to dance with her. Everybody was looking at her and giving her all this attention. And we find out here that her husband, since midnight, had been sleeping in another room for 2 reasons here. One, this thing is not really his scene. This party's not his thing. But he knew that she would enjoy herself. And we're also going to find out that he has to be to work at 10 o'clock in the morning. And instead of at midnight when he was all tired and wanting to go home, he knew that she was having a good time. So instead of saying, "Come on, let's go. We need to go home. I have to be to work at 10," he lets her have her fun and he goes and sleeps in another room until she's ready to go. Again, he does lots of things to make her happy. He threw over her shoulders the wraps he had brought for going home, modest garments of everyday life, whose shabbiness clashed with the stylishness of her evening clothes. She felt this and longed to escape, unseen by other women who were draped in expensive furs. So they go to leave, and her husband, puts over her shoulders like her everyday little coat, her wrap. And it's probably worn, it might have a hole in it or two. And she's embarrassed because she looks at the other women and they're all putting their furs on. And she doesn't want them to see her in her old raggedy jacket. So she doesn't want to wear that, and she, real quick tries to rush away so that these women do not see her and break that beautiful picture or image that she thinks they have of her. Loisel, her husband, tried to hold her back. "Hold on, you'll catch a cold outside. I'll call a cab." Now, when he says a cab, he means a horse and buggy. This was before cars. But she wouldn't listen to him and went rapidly down the stairs. When they were on the street, they didn't find a carriage, and they set out to hunt for one, hailing drivers whom they saw going by at a distance. They walked toward the Seine, the river, disconsolate and shivering. Finally, on the docks, they found one of those carriages that one sees in Paris only after nightfall, as if they were ashamed to show their drabness during the daylight hours. It dropped them off at their door at the Rue de Marté, and they climbed wearily up to their apartment. For her, it was all over. For him, there was the thought that he'd have to be at the ministry at 10 o'clock. Before the mirror, she let the wraps fall from her shoulders to see herself once again in all her glory. Suddenly, she gave a cry. The necklace was gone. Dun, dun, dun. All right. And this is what we call the climax of the story. So we have plot, the order of events in a story, and there's 5 stages of plot. Remember, there's exposition, rising action, climax or the turning point, falling action, and resolution. So she looks in the mirror and she sees that the necklace is gone. Her husband, already half undressed, said, "What's the trouble?" She turned toward him despairingly. I don't have Madame Forestier's necklace." "What? You can't mean it. It's impossible." They hunted everywhere, through the folds of the dress, through the folds of the coat, in the pockets. They found nothing. He asked, "Are you sure you had it when leaving the dance?" "Yes, I felt it when I was in the hall of the ministry." "But if you had lost it on the street, we would have heard it drop. It must be in the cab." "Yes, quite likely. Did you get its number?" "No. Didn't you notice it either?" "No." They looked at each other aghast. Finally, Wazelle got dressed again. "I'll retrace our steps on foot," he said, "to see if I can find it." And he went out. She remained in her evening clothes without the strength to go to bed, slumped in a chair in the unheated room, her mind a blank. Her husband came in about 7 o'clock. He had no luck. He went to the police station, to the newspapers to post a reward, to the cab companies. Everywhere the slightest hope drove him. That evening, Wazelle returned, pale, his face lined. Still he had learned nothing. "We'll have to write to your friend," he said, "to tell her that you have broken the catch and are having it repaired. That will give us a little time to turn around." She wrote to his dictation. So at this point, they decide to lie to Madame Forestier, her friend that they borrowed the necklace from. Instead of being honest and saying, "Oh my goodness, we're so sorry, we lost it. What can we do to replace it? How much was it?" They decide to lie and say they broke the catch and they're going to have it repaired. That way they have about another week or so to hopefully try to find the necklace that they lost. Sadly, though, at the end of the week, they had given up all hope, and Wazelle, looking 5 years older, declared, "We must take steps to replace that piece of jewelry." The next day, they took the case to the jeweler whose name they found inside. He consulted his records. "I didn't sell that necklace, madame," he said. "I only supplied the case." They went from jeweler to jeweler, one jeweler to another, hunting for a similar necklace, going over their recollections, both sick with despair and anxiety. They found in a shop in the Playa Real a string of diamonds which seemed exactly like the ones they were seeking. It was priced at 40,000 francs. They could get it for 36,000. Now, we all know they don't have that kind of money. They asked the jeweler to hold it for them for 3 days, and then they reached an agreement that he would take it back for 34,000 if the lost one was found before the end of February. Wazelle had 18,000 francs he had inherited from his father. He would have to borrow the rest. So the husband had half the money, 18,000 francs, in the bank, but he still would have to borrow the rest. Now, some of you might say, why weren't they living a little fancier life if he had all that money in the bank? Well, he was probably saving it for something like retirement, or if they were going to have children one day, or maybe a house instead of just an apartment. Definitely not a necklace. He went about raising the money, asking 1,000 francs from one, 400 from another, 100 here, 60 there. He signed notes, made ruinous deals, did business with loan sharks. He ran the whole gamut of moneylenders. He compromised the rest of his life, risked his signature without knowing if he'd be able to honor it, and then, terrified by the outlook for the future, by the blackness of despair about to close around him, by the prospect of all the privations of the body and tortures of the spirit, he went to claim the new necklace with the 36,000 francs, which he placed on the counter of the shopkeeper. So he borrowed the other 18,000, and he did it from friends, family, neighbors, but he also had to go to a loan shark. Now, a loan shark is someone that is going to make him pay lots of interest. So let's say if he borrowed 10,000 from a loan shark, he might have had to pay them back 15,000 or 13,000 or, with that interest. And also a loan shark is someone that if you don't pay them back, they're going to probably beat you up or hurt you in some way. They probably aren't going to kill you because then they'll never have a chance to get their money. But when it says he risked his life, he really did, because he wasn't sure if he'd be able to pay back these loan sharks. When Madame Loisel took the necklace back, Madame Forestier said to her frostily, "You should have brought it back sooner. I might have needed it." She didn't open the case, an action her friend was afraid of. If she had noticed the substitution, what would she have thought? What would she have said? Would she have thought her a thief? So Madame Loisel was a little worried because this was the day before cameras and stuff, and pictures. So she wasn't sure if this was exactly the right necklace, even though they both thought it looked the same. So she was worried that her friend would open the case and realize that it wasn't the same. However, her friend did not even open the case. Madame Loisel experienced the horrible life the needy live. She played her part, however, with sudden heroism. That frightful debt had to be paid. She would pay it. She dismissed her maid. They rented a garret under the eaves. So Madame Loisel is what we call a dynamic character. She's changing. Her personality changed, okay? If she was a static character, she would stay the same. You hear those S's. But she is a dynamic character who changes. So I always think of dynamite. If that were to explode and go off, things would change, just like a dynamic character changes. All right. It does not mean that she went from being alive to dead. All right. It means that her personality changed. So she's now going to do all these things that she never would have done in the beginning. All right. But she knows they have to be done in order for them to pay back all this debt. So they got rid of the maid, and now she's going to do all the house cleaning and all the work. And they got rid of their decent size apartment and rented a garret under the eaves. A garret would be like the attic in a building. So, it's not very big, and where the roof slants, you're not going to be able to stand up tall. And of course, it would be cheaper to rent that than the apartment that they had. But they're going to do anything they can to pay back this debt. She learned to do the heavy housework, to perform the hateful duties of cooking. She washed dishes, wearing down her shell-pink nails, scouring the grease from pots and pans. She scrubbed dirty linen, shirts, and cleaning rags, which she hung on a line to dry. She took the garbage down to the street each morning and brought up water, stopping on each landing to get her breath, and clad like a peasant woman, basket on arm, guarding sew by sew her scanty allowance, she bargained with the fruit dealers, the grocer, the butcher, and was insulted by them. A sew is kind of like a penny or a small amount of money. But she would try to bargain with the butcher or the fruit dealer and be like, "Oh, instead of giving you 10 francs, can I give you 8?" And of course they were like, "No, you're going to pay the full amount." But she was trying any way she could to save some money. Each month, notes had to be paid and others renewed to give more time. Her husband labored evenings to balance a tradesman's accounts, and at night often he copied documents at 5 sous a page. And this went on for 10 years. Finally, all was paid back, everything, including the exorbitant rates of the loan sharks and the accumulated compound interest. So her husband took on 2 more jobs, which means he had 3 jobs. And they did this for 10 years. It took them 10 years to pay back that necklace and all of the interest that they owed. Not only did Madame Loisel change physically, change mentally, knowing that she had to pay back this loan, but she also changed physically. All that rough work took a toll on her. Madame Loisel appeared an old woman now. She became heavy, rough, harsh, like one of the poor. Her hair untended, her skirts askew, her hands red, her voice shrill. She even slopped water on the floors and scrubbed them herself. But sometimes, while her husband was at work, she would sit near the window and think of that long ago evening when at the dance she had been so beautiful and admired. What would have happened had she not lost the necklace? Who knows? Who can say? How strange and unpredictable life is! How little there is between happiness and misery. Then one Sunday, when she had gone for a walk on the Champs-Élysées to relax a bit from the week's labors, she suddenly noticed a woman strolling with a child. It was Madame Forestier, still young-looking, still beautiful, still charming. So she went for a walk in the park, and she notices Madame Forestier. Remember, that's the lady who let her borrow the necklace. She has not seen her since she returned that necklace, so it's been over 10 years. Madame Loisel felt a rush of emotion. Should she speak to her? Of course. And now that everything was paid off, she would tell her the whole story. Why not? She went toward her. Hello, Jean. The other, not recognizing her, showed astonishment at being spoken to so familiarly by this common person. She stammered, But, Madame, I don't recognize. You must be mistaken. So, Mathilde Loisel has changed so much, physically, and plus it's been 10 years, that Madame Forestier does not recognize her. And the fact that Madame Loisel used her first name, Jean, all right, you only did that if you really knew somebody very well back then. So, Madame Forestier says, hey, I'm sorry, I don't recognize you. And Mathilde says, no, I'm Mathilde Loisel. Her friend gave a cry. Oh, my poor Mathilde, how you've changed. Yes, I've had a hard time since last seeing you, and plenty of misfortunes, and all on the account of you. All right, she blames Mathilde Loisel. She blames Madame Forestier. Of me? How do you mean? Well, I lost it. You lost it, but you returned it. I bought you another just like it, and we've been paying for it for 10 years now. You can imagine that wasn't easy for us to have nothing. Well, it's over now, and I'm glad of it. Madame Forestier stopped short. You mean to say you bought a diamond necklace to replace mine? Yes, you never noticed it then? They were quite alike. And she smiled with proud and simple joy. But Madame Forestier, quite overcome, clasped her by her hands. Oh, my poor Mathilde, but mine was only paste. Why, at most it was worth only 500 francs. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, no. We find out here at the end of the story that the necklace that Madame Forestier let Madame Loisel borrow was only fake. It was paste, all right? And it was only worth about 500 francs. And here the Loisels replaced it with a real necklace that cost, what they paid, 36,000 francs. Now you might say, yeah, that's what Madame Loisel deserves. She treated her husband horribly. She really didn't need that necklace, all right? But the story also kind of ends here open-ended. We don't know how Madame Loisel reacted. We don't know what she said, what she did. Did she end up telling her husband this? What did Madame Forestier do after this? We don't know. Now, there were many things in this story that we would call foreshadowing. Foreshadowing is those hints or clues about something that's going to happen in the future. And there were a few hints and clues that maybe there was something off about that necklace. Maybe it wasn't real. Let's think about it. Madame Forestier hadn't seen Madame Wissel in years, and she's just going to let her borrow a very expensive real necklace. The fact that when they went to go to replace it, they went to the jeweler whose name was on the box, and he told them that he only sold the box, not the necklace. Okay, maybe that was a sign it was fake. And also, when Madame Wissel went to return the necklace to her friend didn't even open the box. I don't know about you, but if you let somebody borrow something that's really expensive, you're probably going to check it out to make sure that it still looks good. But her friend didn't even open the box. So, all of those things could be considered foreshadowing, hints that maybe that necklace wasn't real. Now, when it comes to the theme of this story, like the lesson or the moral, what does the author want you to take away from this story? This is what we call, there's external theme, and then there's, a theme that you have to interpret, okay? So external theme is explained. External theme is something that is explained to you. Okay, this is not that. This is theme that you have to think, what does the author want us to learn? Okay, and the author here, you can choose many things. You could say, maybe she should have told the truth. Okay, Madame Wissel decided to lie to her friend that they broke the catch. I'm sure if they would have been honest with her friend, they might have only had to pay her 500 francs. Or maybe her friend would have said, oh, it was fake, don't worry about it. But instead they lied. Maybe it's be happy with what you have. In the beginning of the story, Madame Wissel had a good life. She had a decent apartment. She had a very loving husband. And, she gave up the little money that they had for this necklace. It could also be that material things, aren't everything. Okay. So, there's many different lessons that you can learn from this story. So I said earlier that it was external theme. I meant explicit theme. So explicit is explained for you by the author. This would be the opposite. This would be implicit theme because it is implied. Like I said, everybody that reads this story could take something away to tell the truth, that material things aren't everything. Be happy with what you have. And as you can see, Madame Wissel's life changed, simply because of a necklace.